A city has to be more than just roads, buildings, steel, and glass. A great city has to be made by people of vision, trust, ethics, and courage. With the ability to take risks, to begin with a dream on paper and see it through successfully. Houston is that kind of city. The builders of Houston 90 years ago had those qualities. They saw something in Houston, and that's remarkable because Houston at that time was just a big, small town.
Houston in 1909 was only 65,000 people. And who would have ever known, that it was going to become the energy capital of the world and just this phenomenal growth.
The reason economically was the discovery of oil, the opening of the Houston Ship Channel in 1914. And it really corresponded to the time that Houston began to move from a city of regional consequence to a city of national consequence.
In 1923, a group of builders came together to organize the Houston chapter of the Associated General Contractors of America. These builders wanted to establish and maintain ethics in the public interest and professional standards. They wanted to defend themselves from adverse conditions and protect their industry.
There was certainly a need to have a unified voice as it relates to labor.
Each contractor would give their bargaining rights to the AGC, and whatever the AGC negotiated, they had to live by. When we had problems and strikes, they had to agree with it and had to shut their jobs down.
I think the consistency of the labor challenge has always been there, probably always will be there, because we can't get our jobs built without good labor.
These founding firms, through the AGC, negotiated with emerging labor organizations in the area and promoted construction by contract at a time when day labor and force account construction work ruled the building trades. The partnership between AGC members, entrepreneurs, architects, and skilled trades began to transform Houston.
The Houston AGC chapter has been led by people who are the top people in their companies. So I think that has led to a general feeling of respect for others, instill the idea of integrity, that if you deal with an AGC contractor, you're going to get a first-class company to deal with. They're going to treat you right.
There's this camaraderie and mutual respect for contractors who belong to the AGC.
The ability to foster collaboration among individuals and competitors. When you step back and look at who's in the room, a lot of them are competitors, but yet it's important to build those relationships to foster the growth of this industry here in the Houston region.
In 1927, the Gulf Building, now the Chase Bank Building, broke ground. It was completed in 1929 as the Great Depression spread across the nation. At 37 stories, it was the tallest structure west of the Mississippi, developed by Jesse Jones and built by the American Construction Company. Between 1936 and 1939, the San Jacinto Monument, the tallest obelisk in the United States, was constructed by an AGC founding firm, the W.S. Bellows Company. And in 1937, Fretz Construction Company built the Art Deco landmark River Oaks Shopping Center.
While much of the rest of the United States was struggling with the effects of the Great Depression, in Houston, architects, engineers, contractors could find jobs. And so it was a time of growth, not only in terms of new buildings, but also in terms of the expansion of all of the professions related to building because there was construction here.
There's always been that can-do attitude, and I think it's just filtered down in Houston for a long time, and it still exists today.
People find acceptance here and often enthusiastic acceptance, and it makes them, I think, very eager to do things in Houston.
If you work hard and you're good at what you do, you can be extremely successful. And we have seen people from all walks of life, all parts of the world, all family backgrounds, be enormously successful at all levels of the business. And that's the fun part. I mean, if you want to do it, you can do it.
Through the decades, the AGC continued to grow. Boom times saw the construction of Houston icons, Houston Astrodome, expansion of the Port of Houston, the Texas Medical Center, and the Galleria. The AGC organization helped to connect a direct line between the great founders of Houston's building industry and all of those who have come after them.
You know, the AGC, I think, has been the catalyst for the relationships that are developed in the construction industry. Certainly, we're unique in Houston, I think, from the standpoint that we have so many old-time family construction companies.
All of the companies that were here in the early years, 8 or 10 that made up this chapter, all of the other companies, the number somewhere around 85 now, the majority of them, or I think most of them, were spawned out of the companies that were here in the early years.
My grandfather, Warren Bellows, Alvin Lott, and many others, they were true builders in every sense of the word.
We learned from them. We were in awe of them because we felt like we were sitting at the knee of legends in our industry, and we didn't realize at the time just how significant that was.
The legends that established the AGC would be proud of the next generation of projects that have been completed into this new century. Reliant Stadium, Minute Maid Park, Transco Tower, City Center, development of the energy corridor west of the city, as well as the rapid expansion northward. The Houston construction industry has weathered recent economic storms, as well as real storms. But the industry and the associations still face important issues that need to be solved. The AGC continues to be a valuable resource to help address those issues as a united front.
For me, the AGC is about doing work as a group that you can't accomplish as an individual company.
The AGC is there for its members. Get involved with it. Take advantage of it. There's social opportunities as well as continuing education opportunities. There's networking opportunities. Get out and get involved with it and be a part of it.
I knew that the only way that we could be successful was to be a member of the Associated General Contractors in the Houston chapter. There is no place that you can get the education, the experience, the background and knowledge you know to manage a company better than through the AGC.
You get to share ideas, and that's the wonderful thing about it. I can pick up the phone right now and call several guys that are other general contractors and say, hey, have you ever used all these guys as subcontractor? Have you ever worked with this owner? And they can give me a heads up on it, and I'll do the same for them.
A key value of the AGC is industry representation when dealing with governments, local, state, and national.
It became apparent to us that we needed representation in Austin. We felt that the Houston chapter needed to provide leadership in the industry, in the state, and that the way to do it was to have somebody in Austin.
Houston initiated that office and sent one of our staff members, Wayne Hall, there to organize and run that for Houston.
Out of that grew the idea of Texas Building Branch, pull all the chapters in the state together in a sort of an umbrella organization.
The fact is, state government does affect everything we do in our business, and we can't stick our heads in the sand. And I think AGC, to the contrary, is probably the most aggressive and most valuable way to make sure we're protected.
Never has the building branch been more important than it has been in 2013 in overcoming what was a bad bill and a bad proposition from the Comptroller's office on the financial issues that they were proposing.
AGC members have served in high-ranking leadership positions at the national level, as well as numerous important forums and committees.
And the thing I remember most about the Los Angeles meeting, I learned a lot about National AGC at that time, was that open shop contractors, mostly from Texas, all met in the basement. It was a small group, but I went to their meeting that early on, recognizing that that might be the wave of the future.
Another issue that is important to all AGC members is a safe workplace. Safety has always been a priority for the AGC.
Safety really needs to be as important as production.
We have continuing education programs for field level guys that are out there, your CPR and your safety. The safer job sites that you're on, the better.
I think the greatest legacy of our generation, or the younger generation, is safety. We've gone from compliance to commitment, especially within the last 15 years, of really hammering home the importance of safety and coming home every day without being injured. And I think that's going to be our generation's legacy.
AGC of Houston today has grown to represent the entire industry: general contractors, specialty crafts, material suppliers, and service providers, union and open shop.
Houston will double in size by the year 2040. We'll be replacing most of the infrastructure we have today, and we're going to need craft workers in order to do that. Today, the average craft worker is about 47 years old. Many of our craft workers will be retiring in the next 2 to 3 years. The average entry age of a craft worker is 29. So we're bringing in our craft worker too late, and our workforce is aging, and we're not replenishing.
So we came up with the idea of having a demand-driven model where the owners would demand qualified workers, workers paid by the hour, workers paid overtime, workers that are trained, workers that are safe, workers that had benefits. And if you could get a group of owners demanding this, then the contractors and the subcontractors would follow suit.
And so we are leading the way with programs like the C3, the Construction Career Collaborative, which is an AGC program that's dealing with all three of those: training, wages, benefits.
We're fortunate enough to have 2 owners that have agreed to do beta projects, MD Anderson and also Texas Children's Hospital.
The idea of the beta projects was to find out what works and what doesn't work. But the third leg of that was to prove our theory that you're going to have a safer job site, a more productive job site, less absenteeism, less turnover, and that you could do it for the same budget.
C3 has now grown into an industry initiative. It had to be bigger than the AGC if we were going to be successful to affect the greater Houston area. But it's been embraced through the efforts of AGC Houston throughout our industry.
As the construction industry changes with the 21st century, the AGC is a place to share information about new technologies and more efficient ways of working.
Back then, there were not even telephones or cell phones or any kind of phones to communicate with workers or foremen on a project.
Nowadays, you can't operate a project and manage a project without a cell phone. They've got the smartphones, email, you can even pull drawings up on your phone nowadays.
The most exciting thing in the construction industry I've seen is the BIM, Building Information Modeling. It's more than pretty pictures and coordination. It dramatically affects how the construction goes in place.
On this project, we had over 13,000 clashes that we found by modeling it in the computer, which means we have ductwork that's running into sprinkler pipe, we have plumbing pipe that's hitting sprinkler and ductwork. We're able to move those lines around on the computer before we ever have the first person on the job. We have projects now where we have kiosks on site with 50-inch LCD screens and computer monitors that we are downloading every morning with the latest set of drawings.
When you're trying to compare to buildings that were constructed 40 to 50 years ago, I would almost venture to say that the construction time is half nowadays for the same building.
Houston is a unique city, blessed with visionaries and risk takers, building professionals who love to build. Through boom times, depression and recession, labor and regulatory challenges, for almost a century, members of the Associated General Contractors of Houston have been instrumental in creating places where we work and live today. When you look at Houston, you see AGC. But what about the city tomorrow and a century from now? Where are we going to take this city next?
We're bullish on Houston's future. All the long-term economic indicators look good for us.
Houston is going now probably like it was in the pre-80s. In 2013, it's turned around.
I've got a lot of goals in mind. I plan on being in this industry for a long time, and it's just refreshing to have an organization such as the AGC to help foster that development.
We need to make sure that our young leaders have the institutional knowledge that was provided by our predecessors.
So as I look forward for the next 100 years, I want the AGC to continue to be run by contractors, by its board to be made up of contractors.
And it just speaks to the strength of what's happened as a really viable association that continues to this day, where we are competitors, but we are respectful competitors, we are friendly competitors, we respect each other's businesses, but we also know the value of working together to derive benefit for everybody. And I think that's the greatest value of AGC.